Well, first of all, I'd like to start off by thanking everybody for coming out here on this wonderful day for Veterans Day. And I want to wish everybody here a happy Veterans Day and thank you for your service.
With hearts humble, with a sense of our responsibility, yet of the confidence placed in us by our comrades of the American Legion. With hearts grateful for the rich heritage bequeathed to us by our Father, yet determined to be ever vigilant to preserve it, we ask this blessing, O God, in His conference, that it may be fruitful to its accomplishments and permanent in the good it effects. Be with us, O God, in our deliberations. Inspire us with your wisdom, direct us in our thinking, and guide us as we work for you, our country, and our comrades. Amen.
At this time, I'm going to perform the presentation of the colors. Sergeant at Arms, form the color guard.
Color guard, attend, hut! Forward, hut! Left, 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 detail, hold.
Right,
Hold.
left, 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 right, your left,
Detail, hold. Left, hey. Commander, color guard is in position.
Thank you, Sergeant at Arms.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
At this time, I'm going to hand over the microphone over to Mr. Lust, our city councilman for the great city of Powder Springs.
Good morning, everyone. Let me add my welcome to everyone for coming out this morning to this beautiful ceremony. The mayor, Mayor Thurman, was unable to be with us this morning as he had a funeral to attend at his church, but he does extend his welcome and his greetings to all who are here today. My name is Henry Lust. I'm Mayor Pro Tem and Councilman for Ward 1 for the great city of Powder Springs. So today, Veterans Day, is the day we set aside to thank and honor all who have served, living or deceased, but in particular, the living veterans among us. You know, Memorial Day specifically commemorates the men and women who have died while in service of their country and made the ultimate sacrifice for their country. However, the importance of Veterans Day this day is to celebrate and honor all American veterans for their bravery, sacrifice, and love for their country. So on behalf of Mayor Thurman, City of Powder Springs, council and staff, we are honored to be here today, and we welcome you to this occasion. Thank you.
The next individual I'm going to introduce here is our guest speaker today, Mr. Bob Morgan. Mr. Bob Morgan grew up in Buchanan, Georgia, and graduated from Buchanan High School in 1963. He entered the workforce while attending college for 2 years, and in March of 1966, he was drafted into the U.S. Army. His basic training was received at Fort Benning, Georgia, followed by Armor IET at Fort Knox, Kentucky. From there, he went to Vietnam and was in country until his discharge in 1968. He returned home from Vietnam and returned to college, graduating from Georgia South with a BBA in accounting in 1970. In 1980, Bob started his own accounting firm, which has become Shaker, Morgan and Collins LLP CPAs. Bob's activities and civic involvement are many and include serving the board of directors for North Atlanta chapters of CPAs, serving on the Development Authority of Cobb County for 20 years. He is currently the treasurer of Franklin Gateway Community Improvement District. He also serves on the board of directors as the treasurer of the Metro Marietta Kiwanis Club. Also serving on the board of directors of the Calvary Children's Home for 8 years. And he has served on the board of directors of the Cobb Veterans Memorial Foundation since its inception. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Bob Morgan.
Thank you. Well, I guess if anybody would have told me some years ago that I would be speaking at a veterans event I would really been surprised. But I got on the Memorial Foundation because Donna Rowe, who maybe some of you know, she and I had been friends for years. And when they started the Veterans Memorial Foundation, they said when they organized, they needed somebody that could apply for the nonprofit status. And so Donna said, well, I know a Vietnam veteran, and he's a CPA, and he'll do that for us. And so they got me. And so I've been but I refuse to be the treasurer. You know, if you're a CPA, you get to be treasurer of everything. And I said, get somebody else to be the treasurer, and I'll stay on the board. So it's been my honor to have been on the Memorial Foundation, and I'll talk about that. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself and my service. Like I said, I graduated from Buchanan. You know, Buchanan used to play McEachern in football. We played North Cobb in football, and we played Dallas High School when there was a Dallas High School. But the difference is Buchanan hadn't changed much in the last 50 or 60 years. And this Cobb County has changed a lot. Because we were all either Class B or C. I don't even think they have a B or C anymore. I think everybody's A or double A or triple A or whatever number of A's you got. Well, Buchanan is still, well, it's not a Buchanan High School anymore. There's a Harrison County High School. But anyway, I'd been at Fort Knox for several months, and they gave me the choice. They said I could re-up for 3 years and go to Germany, or they'd probably go to Vietnam. And I said, I had almost gotten my first year in, and I thought, well, I got a year or I got 4 years, 3 years left to go, and I thought, I really have a lot that I wanted to do, and so I wanted to go ahead and get out of the Army. So they sent me to Vietnam. They flew me into Tan Son Nhut Air Base, which was close to Saigon, put me on a C-130 and sent me to Pleiku, which was the 4th Division, put me on a deuce and a half and sent me out to a fire base, and I became a part of a tank crew in Vietnam. Now, I've had a lot of people say, well, what did they do with tanks? I didn't know they had tanks in Vietnam. Well, they didn't have a lot of them. But in Pleiku, there was a road that went from Quy Nhon Naval Base to Pleiku, and it had to be, and the 4th Division had to be supplied. So the battalion was spread out, or the company was spread out between Quy Nhon and Pleiku, because every time they left the bridges unguarded, the Vietnamese, Charlie would blow them up. So about half of my time I spent two tanks on one on either side of the bridge, guarding them. And so there was not, they never blew up one of our bridges, but it wasn't always the most gallant or most, I guess what you'd call the combat intense thing that you had to do. But some of the bridges were, one was the furthest, I guess the furthest east was sort of in a mountainous area, and that was the one I would rather go to. The two others, the closer you got to Pleiku, the more people you had around, and so I'd preferred to be in that one, because that was, I never really liked being in a congested area with a tank, because you really couldn't control who walked by the tank and what they did. So you're always suspicious of what somebody might want to do. But when we're on the furthest east, one of the groups that you had a lot of, and I don't know if you've ever heard, they had sort of an Aborigine tribe that lived in the Central Highlands called Montagnards, and they were as primitive as you can ever imagine. And so I know I had a guy, my best friend on the tank was from Florida, and I was down working on the tank doing something one time, and he said, Morgan, you got to come up here. And he said, this is the king. And I said, what do you mean? He says, the king of the yard, well, we called him yard, king of the yards. And so I went and looked, and there was a guy out there, he was really, had a loincloth and a crossbow, and he said, but they lived in the mountains. The Vietnamese really didn't like them, and they they pretty much had the worst part of the country that they lived there. But they were, the special forces groups worked with them, trained them a lot, and they were real good troops. But we had, and one of the most memorable things that I did is we had to go out, the only Montagnard village I ever went to, or I was ever close to, the I guess whatever group in the military was in charge of that had built them, and it looked like, they were had 10 roofs, which was probably the best thing that anybody in Vietnam could have had. 10 roofs, and they were wooden, and we went out to guard them while they were harvested their crops, because the Viet Cong would come in and steal their crops. And so we stayed with them 3 or 4 days, and they would bring us corn and some other stuff that they had that they were harvesting. And that was really it was really quite an experience to be with something like that. When you go back and you think about Vietnam, the Vietnamese had been under the control of the French since 1850 until 1953. The Japanese invaded along with the French during World War II, but then after the war, the Japanese were defeated. The Vietnamese under Ho Chi Minh had fought with the United States or against the Japanese. And so after World War II, Ho Chi Minh wanted the United States to not let the French come back in. But France had been an ally in World War II, so we sided with the French and we let the French come back in. And Ho Chi Minh started a rebellion against the French that lasted until '53 when the French were defeated. I hope I'm not telling you a lot of stuff that you know, but after there was a battle at Dien Bien Phu was the final battle that when they defeated the French. And Eisenhower had sent troops in, had sent advisors and supplies to the French, and then when Kennedy was elected, he sent advisors and troops to the French, and up till the time they were defeated. So after that defeat, we supported the South Vietnamese because Vietnam and North Korea were both divided into North Korea and South Korea, North Vietnam and South Vietnam. And so and that was at the Geneva Convention. So as soon as that was over, the North started infiltrating the South to try to, and so we went and we supported the South Vietnamese. I always thought the disadvantage that the South Vietnamese had, because if you ever saw a picture of Ho Chi Minh, he dressed like all the other Vietnamese. The South Vietnamese presidents, they dressed like Europeans. They wore suits and ties, and I think they never had the support of the South the way the North had. Ho Chi Minh had the support of the North. So anyway, we go in, and in 1985, Lyndon Johnson, who was president at the time, started because they felt like the situation in Vietnam was getting worse and worse, and so they started sending American troops in. They sent the Marines up to the DMZ. First Division went to First Cav went into the South, and then the 25th Division, and then the 4th Division. And so when I went in, I went as a replacement in the 4th Division, which was at Pleiku. You know, if the world situation that the United States was in, you know, if you remember the domino theory, the theory was that Vietnam fell to the communists, then Thailand and Laos and Cambodia, they would all fall to the communists. And so we were sent, you know, that's what we were trying to avoid in the war. We had, in the years that Americans served in Vietnam, there were 2,700,000 troops in the Army, Navy, Marines that served in Vietnam. Of that number, 58,000 were killed. So at the peak, we had 549,000 people, troops in Vietnam. We were mostly out by 1973, because we went through. You know, if you think we went through the Eisenhower administration, the Kennedy administration, the Johnson administration, and the Nixon administration. So every time you changed, you had a different philosophy of what to do with the war. Sorry about that. I'm sorry. Okay. And I thought after, I was gone when the peace talks started, but I always thought the worst thing that you could do to somebody you're sending in combat was start peace talks, because I think that's when the morale of the troops in Vietnam really deteriorated, because who wanted to be the last person killed because they might quit and go home the next day? So I thought that, and I thought the same thing when they started talking about peace talks in Iraq and peace talks in Afghanistan. That's really not fair to the guy that you're asking to put his life on the line, when you know that tomorrow they may quit and everybody go home. Like I said, I was on a tank crew. You had a gunner, a loader, driver, and tank commander. You could always do without a gunner, but you had to have a loader, a tank commander, and a driver. So I always fluctuated between when we had a tank commander, I was gunner for and when we when we needed three men, I fluctuated. Sometimes I would drive, and sometimes I would be the loader. So we would put, like I said, we would put 2 tanks on either side of a bridge, and that's what, and that's the way we defended them. So after several months of that, they decided, I don't know who took over our spot, but we went to guard an airfield in a place called Dak To, which was closer, a little further north and closer to the Cambodian border. So we would, and the kind of an example of the way the war went, or way we went up there and we guarded this air base for a couple of weeks, and then they moved to somewhere else. And then about 2 weeks later, they said, we've got to go back up to the airfield, and some alert had found a large contingent of North Vietnamese troops on the mountain above Dak To. And so we went up there and guarded, and they brought the 173rd in, 173rd Airborne Brigade. And they went up, and they would go up and attack, and they would fight, because the Vietnamese they would be in tunnels. So they would come up and fight, and then they would pull the 173rd back, and they'd bring in airstrikes and artillery, and that would go on for a couple of days, and then they would go back up. And that went on for, a couple of weeks. And then finally the 173rd went up one day, and they had all pulled out, probably gone back into Cambodia. And it just seemed like that was a lot of the way the war went a lot. And then after they left, we left. And I thought, we just won this place. Aren't we supposed to stay here for a while? But that's not the way. They would pull out and we would pull out. So, and I think that was part, because this was in 1967 and 68, the Tet Offensive was probably the one thing that turned the war against the United States. It was a horrible defeat for the North Vietnamese. But I think everybody thought that was a victory for them, but they never held anything that they won, any of the ground that they had. We drove them out, but I think Johnson said when Walter Cronkite turned against the war that it was going to be lost. So we didn't win it. We didn't lose it on the battlefield. We lost it in the United States, and we lost it in Congress because they're the ones that did support us. How am I doing on time? All right. I had so when I ETS'd out of country and I came back, I went back, got my degree in accounting. I thought I would really never go back to Vietnam. But I was talking to a friend of mine that's a traveler, and I was telling him I would like to go down to Peru to see Machu Picchu, and he said, well, if you really want to see something, you need to go to Cambodia and see Angkor Wat. And so I talked to my wife, and I said, well, why don't, if we're going to go over there, we might as well go back to Vietnam. And she said, well, where do you want to go? And I said, well, I don't want to go anywhere that I was. And so we, because really most of the time was spent out in the field on the roads. I mean, there were no towns that really you'd want to go back and visit, no landmarks or anything like that. So in 2019, we went back. I went back to Vietnam. We flew to Seoul, Korea, and then flew to Hanoi. Nobody went to Hanoi back then on purpose. So they had a big mausoleum for Ho Chi Minh. And the guide kept saying, do you want to go to Ho Chi Minh? You don't want to go to Ho Chi Minh? I do not want to go to Ho Chi Minh. So, but it was quite an experience. They had, one of the things that they had in the mausoleum, I don't know if you remember when in the mid 60s, there was a lot of conflict between the Catholics in South Vietnam and the Buddhists in South Vietnam. And a picture that made, I think, every newspaper and every magazine, there was a Buddhist monk that set himself on fire in the streets. At the Ho Chi Minh Museum, they had the car that drove that guy to the street where he set himself on fire. And I thought, so much of this was staged over there for our public, to turn the war against, to make people in the United States doubt what we were doing. But I thought that was to me if there was anything I saw over there, I said that's something that showed what, how they thought as compared to how we thought. But they had, I don't know if in the tunnels in Coochie, they had places that you could go. That's a tourist attraction now, and the DMZ. And I said I don't care anything about going there. But we went to Hanoi, we went to Hue, we went to Hoi An, we went to Saigon. Because I never saw Saigon. I really never saw any of the cities while I was over there. We were just out in the field all the time. And so and talking to the guides, and one of the guides said, in the United States you can pay $35,000 for a Camry. I don't know if I was right or not, but he said here it costs $70,000 because $35,000 pays for the car and $35,000 goes to the government. They thought that, he said everything in this country is for the government. He said we've got 100,000 troops in our army and 500,000 policemen. He said the policemen guard the government, the army guards the country. And so he said they're more worried about guarding the government than they are worrying about the country. It was amazing. All of them loved Trump, and they hated the Chinese because the Chinese really control a lot of Vietnam now. He said all the manufacturing and things like that. He said everything that they do is for the Chinese. And I asked him, I said, I only told one guide that I had been there before, but he was telling me about this, and I said, well, why didn't y'all support us? And he said, they lied to us. Well, but I think anytime, and I think we had some of the same problems in Afghanistan. When we went into Vietnam, in a lot of ways the Vietnamese looked at us just like they did the French. We were white people, we were foreigners, we didn't speak the language. I mean, we didn't speak French, but we didn't speak Vietnamese either. And I think we would have had the hard time, and I think they didn't learn the lesson in Vietnam, and I don't think they learned the lesson in Afghanistan. No matter how bravery and how efficient your army is, if you can't turn the people to your side, it's going to be tough to get to win or do what you want to do. So, but I guess going back to Vietnam, we never lost a battle. But a lot of people think we lost the war, but we didn't. Just almost all the troops were gone in 75 or 73, and the South Vietnamese or the North Vietnamese attacked and took over the country in 75. That's when you had the picture of the people trying to leave the U.S. Embassy with the helicopters picking people up on the top of the embassy. But one of the things, and so I have become a member of the Cobb County Veterans Memorial. And, you've got a beautiful memorial here, but we want to build something in Cobb County that would be something that would honor all of our veterans and really be able to draw attention of the public for what we're doing, for what's been done by the veterans for the country. It's going to be a tower, a star that's going to be 122 feet tall, 1 foot shorter than you have to do to get it approved by the FAA because of Vietnam. The lot that we picked out, after the county took the board around to different locations. If you know where the Civic Center is, there's a vacant lot right past the Civic Center, and that's where it's going to be. There's 3.1 acres. When you think we're a nation now of 329 people, 29,000 people, 29 million people, and there's around 2,400,000 that's currently serving in the military. There are about 19 million veterans. So, and that's about 6% of the population that have ever served in the military. I read something one day that said that there's more people know what the other side of the moon look like than it is what it looks like to be on a military base or to serve in the country. So we really need to do something to inspire, one, to thank the people that have served, but to inspire young people, because I've thought, kids go to the youth museum, they go to the safety village, and I think this will be something where we can take kids to. The monument. One of the things we're going to have, you can, if you put somebody's name, I noticed the names up here. If you could, you can put somebody's name on one of the walls that we have, and you can put your cell phone up to it and tell that guy's story, what he did in the military. We're going to have, so that's going to be the honor wall. So anybody, it's not going to be thousands of dollars. That's what we're trying to figure out, how much it's going to cost to do that. But you can put somebody's name and somebody's story on there. So, and it's we've got. We hope to break ground on Memorial Day of 19 next year, next Memorial Day. It's the whole project is going to cost about $4 million. We hope to have. We've got commitments of, I think by next May, of $2 million. So we think we can stage it and start. The first thing we're going to do is put the star up, and we think that'll. Once we get it, I think everybody will be as excited about the ones of us that are on it will be. So I think it's going to be something that. One, I think the first thing is to honor veterans. The second thing is, and we call it mission continues, of veterans that are having health problems, emotional problems, alcohol problems, drug problems, anything like that, that this will be kind of sort of a catalyst to get them at this point, then they can come in and help us out. If they need help, we can locate them and identify them. So that's the second thing after honor veterans. There's also, Lockheed and Dobbins Air Force Base are a big part of the economy for Cobb County. And we'll probably have another BRAC commission, which is a base realignment and closing. We've dodged the bullet for the first two, but this is something we think with this bill, it will show the support for the community, for the military in Cobb County. So we think that would be a big thing. And I think the fact that if we can, if kids come into this thing and see what people have done, to inspire 12, 13-year-old boys, I think they could really, you could put a lot of fire in them to come by, to join the military, be part of the military and defend our country. Because, we don't have, like I said, we've got total, all the reserves and everything, less than 2.4 million out of 329 million people. So, and I want to, thank all the veterans for your service. It's been a pleasure. This is not my normal duty on the memorial, but but I'm glad. I appreciate y'all coming and appreciate the support and and all the veterans that have served.